me, but he's like dancing around this I love you thing. So I was like, I don't know if I want to say this.
Yeah. So
You guys are going to be like, God told me you was mine, so you might as well come down with me. No.
That's what I ended up saying to him, literally.
pretty much. That's pretty much what happened.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Couples Connect. We got some special guests with us today. I want to introduce to you 1 year and 1 month married.
1 year and 1 month.
1 year and 1 month married. Welcome our guests, Bryan and LaToya. So let's give it up for them.
Hey,
Welcome, guys.
Thank you for having us. It's a privilege, and looking forward to this conversation.
Awesome. And yeah, so me and LaToya, we know each other from the music, and I know you do dancing and everything above the stars you do. Multi-talented. Definitely happy for you guys. And we wanted to go through some questions that we had. So,
But before we get started, can you guys tell us a little bit about, who you are
that was my question.
and what you do? I was like, all right. This is what happens after
That was my
12
question.
years.
Would you guys like to tell us your journey so far? And, how did you get connected? How did you find each other?
Okay.
Ooh.
All right. So Bryan and I, we attend the same church, and we knew each other. I had been at that church for, I guess, 5 years, and I think Bryan had been there about 4 years before any of this even sparked. So we kind of were just, serving God, serving on different little dream teams, set up and tear down. We would always cross each other's paths, and we kind of just respected, like, oh, this person's nice, this person loves Jesus, that's very nice, whatever. Mm-hmm. And then it wasn't until our pastor was introducing a trip to Israel, and he just so happened to individually invite the both of us, just at different times and stuff. And so that's kind of where our story took off. I wasn't praying about it at the time. I was just kind of in Israel, the Holy Land, just embracing everything. And then on a bus ride with 50 people, Bryan was on a bus ride too, but God just kind of like whispered in my ear, like, Bryan's your husband. And I was just like, what? I did not hear that. Moving on. And then months later, apparently God gave Bryan the same impression, like, LaToya's your wife. Meanwhile, neither of us had gone on a date. We were not interested in one another in that way. Yeah. And so we're both like, what in the world? So that's kind of how everything started. Eventually, of course, Bryan did ask me out on a date, which I didn't know was a date. But that's just a fun fact about Bryan. He's a very stealthy man. He's serious. He likes to fill things out first before people know his moves. So yeah, I played along with it, and the rest was history. We went on that first date, and I was like, okay, God, I guess you were right. And Bryan thought Jesus was right as well. So he pulled, and here
we are.
That's a short version.
So you were in the Holy Land, communing with the Lord.
Yeah.
And he just kind of...
What a better place to hear from God than, like, in the Holy Land. Like, that's how you knew it was safe. You're like, all right, I'm in the Holy Land, so this must be for real.
So Bryan, when did it unfold for you like that? When did you hear from God?
Not in Israel. It didn't unfold to me like that, but that was the first time I actually got to like talk to her and like get to see a different side from her, besides like the serving side, committed side. But so it was until a few months later after Israel, I'm just praying, not praying about anything in particular, and I feel like God was like, this is going to be your wife. And I was like, whoa, God, this is not like India where, just like forced marriages. Like, don't I get to, pick? And, but it happened a couple more times. So I was like, all right, let me ask if she just wants to hang out. I won't say it's a date, even though it is a date, but I was like, let's just hang out. So I asked her 3 times. 3 times she said no. And then on the 3rd time, she was like, well, like, check it. You just gotta like give me more of a couple days like notice before, because I was just asking her like for that day. She's like, you gotta give me a couple days notice. So I took it as a challenge. I was like, all right, how about this Wednesday? And she was like, all right. So then we walked on the beach and then go have dinner. And then at dinner, I was starting to see what God was talking about. And then the second time we hung out, I was like, all right, yeah, God was definitely right. And I just, saw a different side of her and just saw the beauty on the inside and outside of her.
Wow. Aww. That's amazing. Aww. And I'm not gonna say nothing about that the third time, because that'll preach right there. Preach right there. On the third time.
So what was going through your head, LaToya, that you kept saying no to the date?
Well, I think probably just some of my background and just my ideas of things. So I'm a very guarded person, and I found out that Bryan was almost as guarded as I was, just because he, wasn't willing to be forthcoming on the first 3 dates.
Yeah.
But yeah, so even though I had heard God in March, and Bryan asked me out in August, I kind of was just like, well, this kind of came out of nowhere, Jesus. I mean, is this like a coincidence happening? Like, why is all of a sudden Bryan trying to hang out with me? Like, I know we built a little bit of a friendship in Israel. So I was just in my head about a lot of things. And I was like, well, I'm not about to just jump to it just because he wants to hang out all of a sudden. So I kind of I was hoping that by saying no and not just jump into it, that I would see a little bit more of his motives, to see was it just a one-off thing, was he just bored and didn't have any friends that day to go to the beach with him, or was he literally trying to get to know me? And so when he was asking, it was it was every Sunday or something. I was like, this is probably something else. I was like, let me not just tear him down about it. So I was like, let me let him know if he gives me a little more time to plan for it, then I could be down. So I was a little hesitant. At first, and because we didn't have much interaction outside of regular church stuff, so I was like, I've never hung out with him. This is gonna be weird, or what? He didn't tell me it was a date. So I'm just like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm hanging out with Bryan, I guess, on a random day of the week, and then I ended up having to bait it out of him that it was dates that we were on after the third time.
Third date.
Because
we didn't talk about this. We didn't talk about this, but I'm saying it because it was funny and it mattered to me. So me and my best friend were just plotting on the sidelines, okay, so he took you where for the first time? Okay, we're gonna take note of that. Then where he said the second one is? Y'all meet up again? What, less than a week? And I was like, yeah, this is crazy. So on the third time, we were like, that's it. We gotta ask him, because he's not just gonna be playing around with you, taking you all these nice places, being all romantic.
Right.
So I called him out, and then I was like, oh. So I guess Bryan likes me. This is a little bit more than the friend thing. So he's like, yeah. I'm like, all right. That's not. I was kind of more sold once I knew what his plans were.
Yes, definitely were.
So after that, was the asking for the dates? It was a little bit easier for Bryan at that point.
Yes. He started getting quicker responses, as he would say.
Yeah, a bit easier.
How long did you guys date for before you actually popped the question for her to marry you?
It was pretty quick. So it was definitely God. 4 months, yeah. I think I waited 3 months to tell her I love her, even though I knew right away. So yeah, we were coming back from her parents' house. First time meeting her parents, met the friends, met everybody up in Jersey. And on the way back, she was like, that's when we found out what God told us both. We didn't tell each other for the first 3 months, or 4 months. Yeah, we didn't, because I didn't want to come across like, hey, God told me that you're going to marry me. I want to be one of those creepers. So,
and I was waiting to hear if he loved me or if God told him the same thing. So I wasn't telling him, because I was like, he seems like he's really into me, but he's dancing around this I love you thing. So I was like, I don't know if I want to say this.
Yeah. So,
you guys are going to be like, God told me you was mine, so you might as well come down with me. No.
That's what I ended up saying to him, literally.
Pretty much. That's pretty much what I on the way back from her family's house.
Thanksgiving break.
Yeah, driving back to Virginia Beach. She was like, I forget exactly how it went.
I remember exactly how it went.
Maybe it was like
nope, because he was always inching to it. So he had made a comment I I just want you to know, like, I really can see a future with us, or I really see a future with you. And I was like, when you say future,
when you say
Can you be
future,
more
what do you?
specific? How do you feel
so
about that future?
yeah. So I could tell, like, he seemed hesitant, like he might have had something else behind it. But then he kind of was just like, well, I'm just saying, I see a future. And I was like, you know what? I can't do this anymore. I'm not playing these games. God already told me about you. He's like, what? What do you mean?
Yeah, like, well, God told me something. And then it just kind of got quiet for a second. And then she was like, well, somebody has to say it.
Yeah.
So that was it.
I think that is so cool. Like, what were you? I can just imagine if it was me, I'd be thinking just like how awesome God is.
Yeah.
That he would just be so honoring and I guess so loving of you individually, that he would talk to you about each other, and then you come together and you haven't talked, but it's like y'all are on the same page. I just think I'd be like, oh my God.
That's such a confirmation for like both of you. It takes the guesswork out of it, and that's like you guys got like a movie. That sounds like a romance movie or something.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, God knew it wasn't probably going to work out another way just because of how both of us are.
Yeah.
I noticed that we're both very independent, and like when it comes to our walk with God, we're like God over everything, literally. So it doesn't matter what my parents said. It doesn't matter, what his parents would say or what other people we trust say. If like we know we're sold on something if we hear it from God. And so that was actually one of my requests back when I was in grad school. That was why I came out to Virginia in the first place. Back in 2012, August 2012, I came out here, and I remember maybe midway through, I think I got to like my second year in grad school, and I wasn't feeling it. And I was like, God, look, I got two requests. I got two things from you. Either you're going to give me a best friend out in this area, or my husband gonna be out here. One or the other, Jesus, please make it work, because I wasn't really I wasn't feeling like I was really connected to a lot of people. So this is how crazy I am. I be acting like I'm, bargaining with God, making deals with him. And God actually ended up honoring both of those. And so I found my best friend first, but then I was praying like, God, you don't even have to tell me when I'm getting married. Please just reveal to me who he is. And I promise, like, I will be patient. I will trust you. I won't act any different. Like, I just want to know, like, is my husband here? Like, what's going on? And so, yeah, in the Holy Land, just really seeking God and enjoying that time, that was when he revealed that to me. And so I remember once Bryan and I started dating, I was so full of joy and just awe of God. Like, wow, he didn't have to honor that request, but he did. And it was really, really beautiful to watch it unfold.
Yeah. You prayed to God, and God was like, say less. I got you. It was like, I got you. So the actual proposal, Bryan, what was going through your mind? How did that go?
About to jump out of my heart was about to jump out of my chest. More glory to God on that, because after that conversation we just talked about where we were like, somebody has to say it, like that we're getting married. The very next day, it was a blessing pretty much. I can't really like explain it, but it was, someone blessed me with getting the ring. So I got this really nice rock for her, and then so that for like a month I was thinking like, how am I going to propose to her? And then I felt like I should do it in D.C. So I figured it'd be great. It started off by God telling her in the Holy Land, and then I asked her to marry me in our nation's capital. So we did a whole walk through. She met me in D.C. because my parents are like 15 minutes outside of D.C. Met in D.C. We walked around, looked at Lincoln Memorial, did all the.
When was it?
Oh, December 26th on her birthday.
Aww.
And
He's trying to trip you up.
Around, and yeah, and my heart's just pounding, and I'm trying to act like smooth. I'm trying to act cool, and I'm just like, she's not catching on, thank God. She could tell I was being quiet, but she didn't. She wasn't catching on. So we see all the memorials, and then we're walking back, and we're getting close to this place called David's Prayer Tent, where they play music 24/7, and there's people praying 24/7, and it's right on the this lawn where all the museums are. And I'm like, hey, because my birthday is January 7th, and I was like, hey, LaToya, you know, it'd be great if you like recorded a video of us dancing. That'd be a great birthday present for us, which was partial truth, not the whole truth. But really, I wanted, you know, to get, you know, this on film of me asking her to marry me, because I knew that'd be important to her. I could care less, but I know it's important to her. And so she like sets up this whole thing. She doesn't realize she's setting up her engagement. She's like, okay, we're gonna put the phone over here. We got to get the lighting over here. It's the perfect time so we can hear the sound. And it was pretty funny, but my heart's still pounding. And then we play our song, by Leon Bridges, Beyond. We play our song and we're dancing, we're just slow dancing. And then at the end, I get down on my knee and I said, this started off in the Holy Land, now we're in our nation's capital. You know, will you marry me? It's on video, it's on Facebook if you want to watch it.
Wow.
And
you
then
said yes?
after, yeah, she said yes.
I said a lot of things.
Yeah.
Yes was a part of it.
We get up, some people were watching, and they started clapping for us. And then the plan was after that to go to the David's prayer tent to, like, you know, actually seal it with Jesus. Because apart from Jesus, we can do nothing. So,
Communion.
and we had communion, and that was huge for me. That part, I knew it would be for her too.
Yeah.
But I really wanted to seal it.
Wow.
Just with a ring. Yeah.
That is like
awesome.
That is so awesome.
Oh. I'm just thinking that.
Look, we can end it right there. Like that's just.
I'm like, this is a marriage made in heaven.
Right.
Literally.
Right, literally.
From the Holy Land.
Like you couldn't like predict those things, and like even it was so weird because like even though I knew God had already told me Bryan was my husband, and then we finally talked about it and cleared the air in November. In my mind, I just didn't think he could come up with the ring, to be honest, that quickly. So I was like, oh, it'd probably be maybe in February. Maybe he's going to try to do something around Valentine's Day. So I had already started like preparing myself for like in the next year, like I'm going to be getting, you know, proposed to in the next year. This is going to be great. And so on my birthday, I'm just thinking we're just going to hang out and have a good time.
Yeah.
That was the first birthday that I wasn't with my family, that I was choosing to spend it with Bryan. So it was a big deal to me already. So I just was like, I was already just kind of floating on air of oohs and ahs and love and stuff. So I was like crying. I remember being like, what the heck is happening to me right now? I don't just be crying. I just like lost all my cool points. I lost all the chills, and I'm just being a girl. But it was great because I knew this was God's plan, and it was like more than just feeling Bryan's love. I felt God's love for me when Bryan proposed to me, and when we went to take communion, and there was only one communion left. I paid attention to little small details. There's only one communion left, and they were about to run out. And so at first we were thinking we were going to both have our own little communion cup and stuff. And they were like, I think this is the plan of God, that we only have one because we're about to be one. Like, what?
Mind blown,
yeah.
Right?
But you know, it's so crazy how God will do that. Like how he knows how many, you know, hairs you have on your head. He will take every detail and put it in a way so that it's like little reminders like, hey, I'm thinking about you. Hey, my hand is all over this. You know, my hand is over you guys. So that's just amazing. Y'all, I mean, y'all need to like write something, a
song,
book, a song, a movie, something.
Y'all working on it?
Well, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
I do like to write music. I have been a little rusty in a while, so.
Hey, but this is, I mean, that experience, that's amazing. So
it's a testament to God's faithfulness.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? Like you pray, you trust him, you stand on his word, and he answers, and he always does above and beyond what you could ask or think.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Wow. I don't know how to move on from that, but
we will.
But we will try. We're trying to. After you guys got married and you kind of settled in, and I know in your bio you said that you guys are like thrill seekers. So what are some of the craziest things that you've done together?
True. Well, we just got back from a vacation. I don't know if it's the craziest thing, but it was one of the pretty crazy hang gliding. That was pretty intense.
You
How
would,
you know,
Yeah.
I'm scaredy. I'm like, something can break. I can fall. I can
could break.
die.
No. I could break. No.
Yeah. The first person in our group, so the first person that went, she just went up and then she like did this like sideways thing and went down in the ground. And I was like, you know, are you sure you want to do this?
Right.
That
And Spill was like, yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was pretty intense.
See,
And I like the zip lining stuff that we did, and we did rock climbing.
Yeah.
And we did sandboarding, which is really fun. I had never even heard of sandboarding.
Yeah.
We were on these steep sand dunes, and I fell over and everything, but it was fun. I love having fun with him. I love doing random things with him. And this may not seem like a big deal to other people, but I thought it was a little risk taking. So like we live in a town center, and so there's a bunch of like parking decks and stuff around here. And so I don't know if they have this in Jersey, but I know it's bigger in DC and VA, where they have these like Lime scooters. Have y'all heard of those? Or like the Birds? They're these electric scooters basically or whatever.
okay.
And I don't know how much they get up to the speed wise, but like we just decided they're pretty fast. We just decided we're gonna go run through the parking decks and go up to the rooftops and then like speed down inside the different levels or whatever. Yeah. So that's always kind of like a scary experience at the bottom because you never know if a car's gonna come. But we just still go for it.
Yep. Like, look, I'm just gonna. What is it called?
A Lime scooter or a Bird.
A bird.
See, it's like, I'm just gonna bird by faith and not by sight. I'm just however's gonna happen, God's got me.
Exactly.
Right. No, I can't wait until I see when you guys are doing the skydiving. I know that's coming up, right?
Yeah,
it is.
We are
doing
skydiving.
I was just about to say it. My parents are taking us.
Really? Wow.
Are they going to?
Yeah, they're 71 years old and they're gonna jump out.
So crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
I can't wait to do it. I always wanted to go skydiving, and you know, probably for good reason. Everybody in my family and my friend group in Jersey, they're like, "Girl, you crazy? Ain't nobody about to do that with you."
Right.
And then I married Bryan, and he's like, "Yeah, my cousin's going skydiving. Would you like to join us the next time?" I'm like, "Yes."
Look at God.
I know.
Well, God bless you guys with that.
Right. Let us know how it went.
Y'all are doing that for us, you
Yes.
know. 2020 has been crazy, right? We can all agree, a lot of stuff going on. And I know right now we're in a weird dynamic as far as like race is concerned and different cultures, things like that. How has your experience as a marriage couple been in this type of climate right now?
Let me go first. Okay. I know we always talk that like the color of our skin has literally has not really mattered much to us. It's kind of just been like, I literally love your heart. I literally love your spirit. And that's been the foundation. Like literally Jesus is not even like a cliche. Jesus has truly been the foundation of our relationship. And so that's always how I see Bryan. Like I see him through the eyes of Christ, and vice versa, he sees me that way as well. But in 2020, it was so weird because even though I hadn't thought of those things in a great deal, but with all the racial tensions and different things coming up, I noticed that it did matter to me somewhat, just sheerly off of growing in vulnerability. I mean, that which has nothing to do with Bryan being white. That was just like my own issues. When I was single, I had issues with vulnerability, and so I noticed that I would find myself almost like hiding my emotions or keeping my thoughts from Bryan initially about these kinds of things, just because I'm like, dang, like we've been having such a great time. Like I didn't know if I was comfortable sharing that stuff with him or how he was going to receive it. Was he going to think I was being extra? Would he understand it? I don't want to make him feel any kind of way. So that was an issue for me. But then I realized, you know what, like Bryan loves me regardless, and he's my best friend, so I need to tell him. Whenever I don't tell him, the Holy Ghost makes sure I feel horrible about it anyway. So I feel convicted, which, you know, helps give me that boost that I need. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, so I share those kinds of things with him, and he's just been really gracious and supportive and understanding. So that's helped me to feel safe that we can have those kind of conversations, and that was a big deal for me, just knowing that we could have those conversations, knowing that he had my back and that he understood about just injustices that happen in life, in, like, period. And then another issue, I'm going to let Bryan's going to speak to some other factors of this, but I'm speaking on the biggest issues for me. The other issue for me was not wanting to get so caught up in the struggle of being Black, the injustices that Black people have endured so much with, you know, social media. You can find 99 million videos on a Black person, you know, experiencing police brutality or some kind of injustice, and it can just make me so angry or just really hurt and stuff like that, and I can just live with that. Or I can choose to remember that my identity is first in Christ, you know what I mean? And put those things in perspective, that I am not a Black woman first. Like, I am a child of the Most High God first. And so I had to kind of let God just re-soften my heart and not get caught up in that, because, I mean, to be honest, at some extent, it would eventually probably interfere with our marriage. It would interfere with how I view my friends who are non-Black. And I just could not afford that. So for me, it's kind of just been, as a Black person, been trying to work that balance, that I'm a believer, that I'm not going to get caught up in this. Christ endured suffering. Who am I to, you know, be able to get out of that? So those are, I think, some of the big issues for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was good to finally have that conversation. You know, in 2019, we joke about it.
Oh yeah.
My ring says on the inside, it says Swirl Life. So, like, you know, we would joke about it. And when we order ice cream, we make jokes about getting vanilla and chocolate.
Yeah.
I hear you.
So
That Oreo going.
Yep.
So 2020 hit, and then yeah, we actually sat down and had like a real conversation, and it was good. It was good to see what she's going through, her side, and it was amazing. And it was also good to just, you know, like, remember that our battle's not against flesh and blood, you know. So that was good. And when I look at her, I see my wife. So I knew it wasn't going to interfere with us. I knew that this would be a great way to glorify God, because I'm not big on Facebook. I didn't have any pictures, but right when this happened, I was like, I'm putting a picture of me and LaToya on there to show that, you know, white people and Black people cannot just get along, they can actually, like, love each other. And it doesn't have to be, you know, necessarily a relationship like our relationship, but like we can actually love each other. Mm-hmm. And it's not just like something like a front. So I put that up there to show, you know, that, you know, in Christ we're all the same. You know, we're all children of God, I should say.
Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think, because kind of you both kind of touched on the same thing, that, you know, we're believers first, and that should be the primary focus, is to love one another. It didn't say love one of a particular race or a particular type of people, but to love one another, whoever you are, you know. And, you know, Toya, you said it perfectly too, that you don't want to get too caught up in the media and what everybody's talking about, because if you do, because you will get upset by looking at all of that stuff, and then sooner or later it will consume you. You know?
I absolutely had to cut some stuff, because I'll be watching documentaries, videos, and the next thing you know, I'm like, I was telling my girlfriend the other day, because when we pray for our kids and stuff, and I was telling her, I was like, I had to check myself, because I found myself talking to my son about some of these issues, but I was using like the terms white, Black, and I never have had these conversations with him before. And I'm like, I don't want him to see it. So like, I don't want him to see it. Right, so right. And we go to, you know, we go to Hillsong, New Jersey. So we have a lot of friends that are all different nationalities. And And so I had to, you know, remind myself, like, what you consume and what you take in, it starts with what you think, and then
Yeah.
it becomes how you feel and how you behave. And so I had to make an adjustment because I
Yeah.
was just like, I can't. I mean, I recognize that there are injustices. I recognize
Yeah.
that there are things that we need to correct, but I also want to move in love
Yeah.
at the
Because
end of the day too.
you have to, you got to be clear on what the issue is. Like, it's not, you said it, Bryan, we don't fight against flesh and blood. This is not a flesh and blood thing. Like, we have to not forget that this is about spiritual powers. You know, this is about things that that God is going to demolish, and we have to attack it in the spiritual realm. And then when we get caught up in all of the physicality of it, that's when you have marriages, you know, separating. That's when you have wars and people hating people that you don't even know and didn't even do anything to you. So we just have to be really careful about that. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that you guys saw that and that you had the conversation. How did that go for you guys when you talked about like how it made you feel, LaToya, and how did you react to that, Bryan? Like, how did that go?
I know for me, I think I was just like, I was a bit hesitant at first, and I had well, I try to do this now, especially since like after the first maybe after like the first 15 days of marriage or something, I realized like I should be praying before I have any conversation with Bryan, just because I saw how it was just like it was like crashing and burning, doing it my way, saying whatever was coming out of my flesh, and so I just had to start praying. Like whenever I talk to Bryan, God guide me in this conversation. I pray things like, Lord, open the door, make the opportunity available to me to present this to Bryan in a way that he would receive it. Help me to be honoring you and listening for you even when I talk, so that I'm not saying anything that's reckless or just, you know, unnecessarily harmful. And then we got to have a whole nother conversation about that anyway, you know?
That's
so
Yep.
try to do damage control. So I had a couple conversations with Jesus first, and then, I just was honest with him and kind of framed it, making sure that I wasn't like including him, because you know sometimes it can be easy to make assumptions, to be like, well, I know you probably feel this or anything. But I just told him, I was like, you know what? If I'm honest, I'm still struggling with just being Black, being in this marriage, and like even when we go places, like God would start to reveal it to me how I was still something I was dealing with, if I needed to share with him, because like, for instance, we went on our vacation in Outer Banks. And I had never been to Outer Banks, and for years I hadn't even heard of it. And then when I got there, I started to almost like shrink in, like, oh no, like there's just nothing but like white people here, and how am I going to be received? Because like we have all this racial tension going on, and this is like a country white town. I feel like this is where Black people die and their bodies get chopped up. Like, that's what started coming to my mind.
Your mind will start going.
Feeling.
Yeah, I know.
That is a real feeling.
You know,
yep.
You watch too much movies, you hear too many stories, listen to older people in my family line and stuff, you just start seeing swamp waters and people in overalls and stuff. You just start stereotyping and thinking the worst case scenarios. And so I just had to be honest with Bryan about that. And just like, look, I'm not saying this is true, but I'm telling you, this is how I feel.
Yeah.
This is what I'm thinking, and this is how it's making me feel. Like, I feel cautious, but then at the same time, I would feel like happy that I was married to a white person, because I'm like, well, then I'm definitely gonna be protected. Like, it was like, it was really weird. It was some twisted stuff, but I had to be playing with him about it, and just give him the space to, you know, do whatever he felt was best as far as receiving what I shared.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's probably not as weird as you think it is. Because when you were saying it, that's why I started laughing. I'm like, yep, that's exactly how I would have been feeling.
Because we're going to North Carolina. We're like, what part of North Carolina?
Yeah. Look, I'm like, listen, I just don't want no problems. Like, we just want to live our best life. You know what I mean? Like,
but at the end of the day, you know what like kind of keeps, what keeps us and covers us is like, God, you got us.
Yeah.
Like, regardless of where we are, what we do, you have us. And I think that you guys are a great representation of the kingdom of God.
Yeah.
Right? And how the kingdom of God loves everyone.
Right.
And it was love that connected you, not skin tone or color or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I think that's just a great testament to the love of God.
Yeah. Because I'm sure there are a lot of, there are a lot of other, not just, you know, Black and white couples, but just interracial couples in general, who probably go through the same experience, and they might not even be Black or white. They may be Asian and Spanish, or, you know, other, you know, the Caribbeans or things like that, and they feel the same way. And, you know, I think when you look at it from a way of, you know, we are created by God, we are created, you know, equally, you know, that you can be able to walk confidently out into these places and love each other, and not just love each other the way you would in the comfort of your own home, but love each other how you would outside of your home as well, you know, without feeling being judged, without feeling like people are looking down on you, or, you know, talking about you, anything like that. So that's amazing. That's going to be a blessing for other couples, you know, to see you guys like that.
So Bryan, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
How did it make you feel when she expressed that, and how did you I guess like respond or go to comfort her in that time?
It was great. It's great to hear someone else's perspective. So even though I had come from the Northern Virginia, D.C. area, where it's like a melting pot, there's every nationality up there. I wasn't brought up in a Christian household, but my parents showed by example, you know, you love everyone. It doesn't matter where they're from. So I always had that, but it still was awesome just to hear her perspective of how she felt. And I definitely recommend it to anybody to just hear out, you know, whatever other nationalities' perspective, to see what they're going through. So, and also at the same time, since she's my wife, there was, I don't know what word to use, but I would kind of getting frustrated that she would, that anybody would treat her different because of her skin color. So then I started getting frustrated, like, you know, like how dare would someone ever talk to her like that or treat her like that, even though it didn't happen to her, but, you know, the chances that it could happen. Then I started thinking about our child. You know, our child.
Which we don't have, by the
yeah,
way.
Sorry.
Because
I'm like, is this the announcement? We got the announcement?
like,
Yeah. If God blesses us. Yeah.
That's right, yeah.
If God blesses us with a child, I started thinking if my child would get treated different just because of their skin color. So then, you know, you start getting frustrated, and then I, you know, while she's telling me and talking to me, you know, I'd start praying, like, God, help me respond in the way that you want me to respond. God is just, he is love, but he's also just, and he doesn't like injustice.
That's right.
So help me to respond and care for her the way that I should.
Yeah, yeah.
and he did. It's one thing I want to say, because I don't know if you remember it, but because I remember certain specifics. Bryan is like the more general. He can, you know, I think that's just like a man gift. You can just like you can sum up a whole day in like 3 words and it'd be accurate, but I need like 10 paragraphs.
We need to talk about it. Details.
One thing that he said, or 2 things that he said that like really comforted me, that stick with me, is that the reminder that Bryan prays before we do and go anywhere, like not just vacations, not just what church should we go to, not just what job. Bryan told me that he prays every time before our dates, that he would pray that God would lead him, like, should we go to this restaurant? What should we do for a fun activity? And so knowing that he prays before we go anywhere, that God is covering us. And then the second thing was, he told me, I would never take you anywhere where you would be out of place or uncomfortable, or where someone would treat you different. Like I would not put you in that kind of position. And I don't know why, even that's like really basic and it's like what a husband should do, but it kind of just really opened my eyes, like, oh wow, like, yo, Bryan is aware of what's happening in the world too. And he would know if the town is racist or if the people are off or whatever. And so he wouldn't take me there. And so that was just like really comforting to know, like, I'm with Bryan, God is leading us, and he's going to make sure that I'm safe, just as a husband.
Yeah.
So that really
covering you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think just as a man in general, like our job is to protect, you know, our house and to be the covering, as Sisha said. So you're doing the job just as a man, but even more so, you know, because of, you know, being an interracial couple, it just adds on to that. So addressing everything with prayer is like, I think it should be fundamental for everybody, you know. to lead and guide you. But
we can tell you conversations we had without prayer.
we just had a conversation with another couple. We were like, we prayed before our check-ins because like, how could you stay mad at somebody after you've been like, Lord, please lead and guide me, and you know what I mean? Like, it's hard to stay mad because it breaks up the yoke. It really does break it up. So and gives you wisdom. But that's amazing. That's amazing. So I want to change the.
He going to do an extreme.
I want to change the mood. I want to ask a question that has been burning in my heart for a long time. Who's
really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. This is an important one for me.
Okay.
Who's the better dancer? Look.
I'm gonna have to drop my pride and.
I say, come on now.
Look,
like, tell the truth.
I know.
Tell the truth.
That's your shame down.
That's funny. Were you guys like battling at the wedding, at the reception, or were y'all calling it a truce?
We were just having a good time. It was funny because people were like, "Did y'all plan that?" Y'all were like practicing stuff, and I was like, "No." We just were having fun, and like that's another funny part. I remember when we had gone on 2 dates or something, maybe 2 or 3 dates, man. Three. When we were at my best friend's wedding, and we both were in the wedding. We both were in the bridal party, and we had been having these phone conversations and stuff. And so Bryan knows that I like to dance, so I'm like, all right, like, we're going to a reception now. I don't know the last time you've been at a party, but like, you're going to be out there, right? He's like, yeah, I'll be out there. I'm going to show you. I'm like, you could dance? He's like, yeah, I can dance. I got moves. I'm like, okay, like, we're going to see. And so I'm like, we like talking all this, dancing back and forth. And so I'm like, I don't know if it's because I'm black or I like to dance. I'm looking forward to receptions more than weddings. So I'm like, turn up the music on. And so I was trying to see where Bryan was at. Bryan came out there 1.5 songs or something like that, and he like went back on his side, and I was just looking at him, give him the side eye, because our relationship was like still on the low.
We done all night.
it was still on the low at that point, so I couldn't like really be open about it. I didn't feel ready for that, but I was looking at him like, you talking all that mess. But then at our wedding, our reception, he made up for it. He came out swinging with the dance moves throughout everybody.
There you go, Bryan. That's what's
Bust
up.
out his break dances.
Wow. Yes.
He was holding back for you the last time.
Right.
Like, we're not going to give her everything.
Not at once.
That's so cool. That's so cool. You guys, y'all have to have a TikTok if you don't already. Y'all got to throw some dance moves up on the TikTok.
We tried one. Took us like 1.5 hours. But 15 seconds.
Yeah.
I think we saw you guys on TikTok.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's funny.
You had something.
Oh, so I guess we're going to transition to see if you guys have any questions for us. We've been married for 12 years, going on 13.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Congrats.
thank you.
Yes.
Lots of prayer, yeah, no.
But just, I guess, to see, if you guys have any questions or anything, we kind of open it up at this point for any questions.
Well, like you guys said, you have 12 years of marriage, and you've done stuff like this, conversations with other couples.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure you've like seen like a reoccurring theme. So like, what advice you would give, or pitfalls that you keep seeing that you would say, hey, stay away from this?
Yeah. There we go. So I think the one I've been hearing a lot, and it's probably twofold, it could be a pitfall or it could be something that elevates you, is communication, right? Communication is like the #1 thing that keeps, other than God, of course, but that keeps relationships together. And if you don't do it, it could be a pitfall. If you do it, then it will keep you guys connected, and it will definitely elevate you. Because communication, regardless if you're upset at somebody or if you're happy and everything's going well, communication still works for either way.
Mm-hmm. I think And I think also remembering that you're on the same team.
Yeah.
Like in the beginning, it was like, we knew that we were in love and we were doing all things together and just building and growing. And then as responsibilities and life happens and we grow and we change, you can kind of sometimes feel like, you're on this side and that person's on this side.
Yeah.
And I think so just really remembering that you're on the same team, and when one person wins, you both win. But if somebody loses, then
everybody loses.
Right.
Yeah.
The marriage loses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would say too, like with the communication is to do check-ins, especially for marriages that have like lasted 10, 12, 13, 20 something years. Things change, like people change, goals change, the way you feel about yourself change, your love language, all those things change. And check-ins are a good way to kind of reconnect and do a pulse check on where everybody's at, where you two are at. So. Yeah.
I did have one question I was gonna ask because obviously Bryan and I are still like kind of in that newlywed season, and everyone always just like hound your door when you're like married for 6 months. Like, so about that baby, you gonna have a baby? Y'all gonna have a baby?
Yeah.
So I know you guys are parents, and you guys, I think you said that you have a blended family. Is that correct?
Yep.
So what are some, like, I guess, lessons that you've learned just weathering the waters of parenting? What was that like maybe like onboarding it, of course. I know it's completely different now, you guys are 12 years in, but what was that like, the initial onboarding of that?
I would say definitely we had different parenting styles. And so I had 3 girls and he had a son, and we had just different parenting styles, different parenting techniques that we weren't aware of. Like, we hadn't talked about that. And just so then we had to merge our styles and then adjust the kids
right
to our styles too.
We had to merge it in a way where we knew the system and we knew how to work the system between us too, because kids are very smart. They are very intelligent, and they know, like, if mom is different from dad, then I'll go to one or the other based on what I'm looking for, or if I'm trying to get out of a punishment or something like that. And you guys got some time before you get there, but I think now having that conversation is vital to how you're going to raise the kids. What does disciplining look like? What does education look like? All of those things. So this way you're not figuring out, what you're doing later on.
And I think along with that is something that we tell everybody is that you're in a circle. We when we first got married, like, we did premarital counseling, and even we go through counseling even through our marriage. But one of the best pieces of advice that we got was that we're in this circle, and then the circle is us, and then God, and then our kids and our family and our jobs, and everything else is outside of the circle. And I think sometimes people want to put their kids in the circle. Outside the circle. And so I think when you have that mentality and you understand, like, we have to develop this and make this good so that we can be what we need to be for you, because you're going to leave us. Right. And then, and then it's going to be us. So I think that really helped us too.
Yeah. You got, like you said it earlier, like, this is my teammate. This is my partner, and we doing this thing together. And I don't want to find myself doing something without, my other half, So
and when babies come, it can be demanding. Right. It is demanding when babies come, but you still have to remember that. You have to remember that. And you'll make adjustments, but you just have to remember that, because it's easy to forget when a child is so demanding, like, all of the time. Yeah. For both people.
Yeah. And take turns, when it's 3 o'clock in the morning and, Toya, you got up the last night, then Bryan, you get up the next night, help each other out, Because listen, we found ourselves like 2 o'clock in the morning, half asleep, arguing over whose turn it was.
I don't hear him. Yes, you do.
Yes, you do. Like, remember I went last night? No, I did it last night.
Right. We did an argument. Like, we didn't pray. Right. We did not get him yesterday. Meanwhile, he's right next to us in the crib crying while we're going back. Tired. But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But enjoy each other.
Yeah,
Like, you know,
it's
don't let
fun. It's
anybody rush you guys. God is the master creator of life, you know, and so.
And this is like, you guys are doing this life. Not these, your family members, your friends, they're not doing this life for you. You're doing this life. So you have to do what's best for you guys and the things that you have planned. And don't be ashamed about if hurting people's feelings or telling people, listen, we're going to wait another year or however long, you know, you guys want to wait. But do y'all. You got to do y'all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Grandma, she'll be okay. Grandma.
Yes.
I guess the last thing I would ask you guys is, do you, even in your 1 year and 1 month and dating, being together, what advice would you give other, I guess, interracial couples and new couples, newlyweds, people who are coming in after you guys? What advice would you have for them?
Yeah.
I guess just for all couples, doesn't really matter if they're interracial or not, but just all couples, you gotta, and this is not just a cliche saying, this is something that I learned, because I wasn't always a Christian. I had a radical encounter with Christ 7 years ago. But anyways, before you get into that relationship, I would definitely say you have to know your identity in Christ, and you have to realize like Jesus is like your true fulfillment, because if you look to that spouse, you know, to fulfill you, to give you all the joy, unfortunately, as people, we fail each other sometimes, or we say something that, you know, we might regret. So if all your chips are, you know, or, you know, all your hope is in that person and you get let down, it'll be crushing. So you got to really make sure that your identity is in Christ. Christ is the one where you receive all your love, and because you receive your love and you know that you're accepted by him, not by works, but just because he loves you, then it's easy to love your spouse the way they should be loved. So that would give that piece of advice.
That's good. Yeah, that's good. That's real good.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Definitely.
Is that it? Did you want to share something else?
Oh, like I guess
she's like, you know, you got more gems in there. You got more nuggets.
Come on, don't hold back on the people now.
That's another good thing to have a wife. She'll always remind you of stuff that you forget. You're constantly forgetting stuff.
Yeah.
What would y'all do?
Yeah.
So that's been a blessing. But definitely premarital counseling, which you guys were talking about. And that's coming from someone that was like, I'll never do counseling. And I'm not against counseling at all. I think it's good. And I'm not against counseling. I mean, I married a therapist, so obviously I'm not against counseling. So I just thought I would never do it. And the first session that we did, the premarital counseling, was just, I needed it big time, and it was amazing, and that really helped out a lot.
Yeah.
So I definitely recommend that.
Yeah. We are big on counseling, so we
yes, sir.
We're pro counseling. We even still now see someone just to make sure that we're so good and to keep our relationship healthy. So yeah, we think everybody should
there's
do
just
that.
so many ways. I think, you know, the enemy wants to attack marriages.
Yeah.
And so there's just so many ways that things can seep in and come in. And sometimes, like, I know LaToya is a therapist, but ideally she's not going to be able to like counsel y'all. Turn it around, like, okay, so what do you think? And
right.
But yeah, so that you can have that perspective to remind you of what you're doing and what God has called you to do too. Because sometimes you just need to be like, we get off the call, we be like, what are we doing?
What is this? What's going on?
Shame on us. Get it together.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's good because, like, I think they remind us that, you know, the things that you experience, because it's not always going to be, you know, sunshine and flowers, right? You're going to experience some tough times, but those tough times don't have to define your marriage, you know, or define like what you've built together. And it's good to have someone looking outside in to remind you of that. Like, look, this isn't that big of a deal, you know, like you guys will get through this. So it's just good encouragement, and I think everybody should do it. So.
Definitely.
But don't run your own sessions though, Toya. You gotta, you know.
I won't.
Like playing third person, you know.
She's like, well, Bryan.
Right. She's like, well, Toya, how do you feel?
My my friends and my family, they would tell me that too. Like, oh, okay, here comes, Dr. Perry. That's my maiden name. Like, but I wouldn't be, in my mind, I wasn't counseling them. They're like, okay, now you're going to give me the therapy stuff. Okay, therapist, counsel me. And I'm like,
right.
Like,
he has his bachelor's is in communication.
Mm-hmm.
So we be talking. I'm like, here he's trying to school me. Communicate.
But
I understand.
Toya, when you've got training in it, like you're not thinking about it. You just kind of
coming out of your mouth. Yes. Like, Bryan used to say that at first when we be like, I think it was like the first couple of months of our marriage and stuff. He would be like, "You're psychoanalyzing me again," and I'm like, "I am not." I'm like, "Please don't use that word. Like that is not what I'm doing." And he's like, "Call what you want." Like.
Right. That is so funny.
I have to be like very, very careful. Like even if there's something that like I want to tell him, like that's why I say I really have to pray about all my conversations, because I don't want to say anything that like is offensive or making it seem like I'm just always trying to teach them something, because I know that's not right. And I have plenty of flaws that I can afford to have like 99 more lessons myself. So I try to be really, really cautious about that. It's hard sometimes though, I'll admit.
Yeah. We got to hold back on. They want us to hold back on our gifts. So you can't hold it down.
People are more receptive when you respond with your tone. I'm like,
I'm always like asking Bryan, like what word would you use for this? Like, how are you feeling? Like, what are your thoughts and stuff? And I could tell sometimes he just be like frustrated, like I don't have the words that you're trying to get me to say. Like, this is what I got.
That's all I got for you.
Yeah, back to communication, like what you were saying.
Exactly. Oh man,
that is funny.
You guys are amazing and phenomenal. I love the story and just everything from the beginning into where you guys are and where God is taking you. Clearly, God has his hand over this whole situation. So continue on, guys, and just keep loving each other. Keep dancing. I want to see a dance battle or something, break dancing or pop and lock, you know what I mean? Get a pop and lock in there. But yeah, just keep loving each other, guys, and you're really a blessing to other people. So.
Yeah, we're so excited. I'm excited. This is my first time meeting you both together, and so I'm excited to see what God is going to do out of this union.
Yeah.
Especially when he like orchestrates something. He has a purpose, a ministry, a plan, and so I'm excited to see how you guys move going forward, and the doors that he opens, and the people that you impact and influence along the way.
Yeah. Yep.
God.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
Yeah, we definitely do, and it was a blessing to talk to you guys too and get to know you all. Yeah. And thank you for having us too.
We're gonna have to connect when we get 4 hours away.
Yeah. Definitely.
That'd be awesome. It was a lot of fun.
Definitely, guys. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. And I, just wish the best for you guys. Pray that you guys just enjoy life, and yeah, you'll be fine.
I mean, he's like you're not gonna stay in touch or anything. Well,
I'm talking about for tonight.
Oh, for tonight.
Right. Enjoy your night. No. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for being on the show, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, cool. Yeah.